respond. Senator, again, all of the types of matters that you raise are high priorities, not just for the criminal division, but for our civil rights division and our civil divisions, particularly on the issue of cartel traffic, cartel activity in the state of Tennessee. I can tell you that the criminal division's organized crime and gang section has been quite active with all of the U.S. attorney's offices in prosecuting and convicting very serious offenders that are members of organized crime organizations in your state.
Senator Hirono.
Ms. Wyman, I agree with you that free and fair elections are the hallmark of American democracy. So I thank the chairman for focusing today's hearing on elections integrity. In fact, we've had a primary elections in certain states, and I note that there are already some winners in the primaries who are saying that if they don't win the general election, it will be because the election has been rigged. That creates an environment that is totally not conducive to election integrity, not to mention what happened and the conspiracy regarding what happened on January 6th and all of the information that the January 6th committee is bringing to light. Mr. Polite, this chart that I have, this is from you. Does this represent the 1,000 or so referrals that have come to the DOJ relating to threats against election workers?
Senator, thank you for the question. The table that you have in front of you was produced in response to the request for additional data by the election community. It reflects some details related to the types of workers that have been targeted by some of these communications, be they state or local or vendors. And then the other table here reflects the mode in which those communications were actually transmitted, and you can see the percentages there.
So it doesn't tell us what kinds of threats have been lodged or sent to these various kinds of workers.
The types of threats?
I'm sorry, the number? It doesn't tell us what the number is of the kinds of threats?
Yes, Senator, this table doesn't reflect that. What I can share with you again is that we have received over 1,000 referrals of harassing, offensive communications, and each and every one of those referrals has been reviewed by the task force for potential prosecution.
We have thousands and thousands of election workers all throughout our country, and yes, there has been a rise in all kinds of threats, verbal, emails, all kinds of threats against our election workers. So the 1,000 referrals sounds like a very small number. What does it take for the DOJ to get a referral?
Senator, the typical path for a referral is two different ways. One, we have had very robust outreach to the election community itself, providing to that community the contact information for both the FBI as well as for the U.S. attorney's offices in their respective jurisdictions, and individuals can make those referrals directly there. In addition, when they have instead directed those referrals to state or local law enforcement, we have outreach and we have trained with those state and local law enforcement partners that they should promptly refer those communications to the FBI for evaluation.
Yeah, well, the point I'm making is by the time that these referrals get to the FBI or to the DOJ, you pretty much have to, it has to be pretty serious, a threat, doesn't it? So it doesn't account for all of the kinds of harassing phone calls, being accosted on the street, et cetera. It does not, those kinds of incidents do not result in referrals to the FBI or the DOJ. I would think not.
It's a fair point, Senator. What I can tell you, like in any area of criminal investigations, underreporting is always a concern. Yes. But what we have tried to do is to encourage the election community to come forward with any type of harassing or offensive communication, regardless of what they evaluated being.
I think that's very important because when I worked on the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, I made it really clear that what we want reported is not just the crimes, what would arise to crimes, but it has to be hate incidents. And there probably are a lot of incidents that ought to be reported so that we have a pretty good, a much more accurate sense of what kinds of environments our election workers are working in. Ms. Wyman, you mentioned that there is a whole of government effort that is required for election security. So is part of that to just provide information to the public that harassing election workers is not okay? Is that part of what you see as a mission for what you do?
Thank you for the question, Senator. We really focus on managing risk and giving guidance to election officials, but certainly these are conversations we're having across the country with local and state election officials, making them aware of the task force and how to report incidents to law enforcement.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I do have one specific question for Ms. Wyman. You noted in your testimony that 93% of all ballots are cast on paper. Do you think it's very important for all states to have paper ballots?
CISA has issued guidance that we think it's a good security measure and a good check and balance, yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Hirono. Senator Lee.